I would now like to invite Mr. Phil Richards and Mr. Wall up to unveil the portrait. Sure, yeah. Are you ready, Phil? Here we go. Yeah, thanks. Two sort of immediate thoughts. I did look like that. And this would be a really ineffectual before and after advertisement for skin moisturizer. Your Honor, Premier, members of the Executive Council, Mr. Speaker, Leader of the Opposition, members of the Legislative Assembly, former Premier Calvert, thanks for coming, sir. Chief Bear, good to see you. I'm feeling very, very grateful today. And those who give speeches for a living would probably say you don't need to repeat the very. It's a redundancy. But I kind of feel like I do. In fact, if you'll permit me, there's a paraphrase I want to offer today. It's of a favorite scripture from Deuteronomy that's really about gratitude. Because this afternoon, I'm feeling very much like the man who drank from wells that he did not dig, harvested from vineyards that I did not plant, and warmed myself by fires that I did not kindle. I am very thankful today. I'm thankful for my former legislative colleagues that are here. I miss you guys. Even Morgan. I want to thank the current members of the Legislative Assembly. Thank you for your service. Thank you as well for agreeing to interrupt your legislative day for this proceeding, for this event. There are current and former members of the Saskatchewan Public Service that are here, with whom we served in government, who helped us in government. We thank them for that, and we thank them for representing that public service here today. I was very, very lucky, ladies and gentlemen. As Premier during that time, I had the best political staff of any Premier in the country, and it wasn't even close. And I'm so grateful that they're here today, too. That office over there where the Premier works a lot was run in my time, and I know it is, in fact. It's run in my time by amazing women, led by a wonderful person named Ruth Gora. And it's wonderful to see Ruth after 5 years. Ruth wasn't just awesome at her job. She was a great steward for that Premier's office. She was careful with the resources of the Premier's office. She had about 3 speech folios like Premier's using today that she kept in rotation. But she was worried about the reputation I might have gained for losing things. So she would only judiciously and carefully hand it out, usually tasking Everett with the mandate to bring it back. My last day, before I walked out, she gave me a folio to take home. And this is not it. I've lost it some time ago. There are friends in this rotunda that I have known for decades, a lot from Swift Current, some since grade school. They've been a great support, and I'm so grateful that you're here, and I'm grateful for those that you represent back home that made a day like that possible. And there are new friends here, too, from Calgary, and I've colleagues in some of the new business that I'm about lately, even from Vancouver, and grateful that they could be here today. And then, ladies and gentlemen, there is a passel of pretty wonderful people, some very close friends, fast friends that Tammy and I have made from the very southwest corner of the province, from the from the Cypress Hills area of the province, where, Premier, I want to tell you, the West is still a little wild down there. And they were all seemingly a little too enthusiastic about being invited to my public hanging, actually. My mom and dad, of course, are here. I won't start, or I won't finish. Maybe more about them in a minute. My brother Barry was sick. He was going to be here with his wife Glenda and my nephew Darren, but they couldn't make it today. There, of course, is my mother-in-law. And Coulter, I'm so grateful that you could come here. He's sort of doing triple duty. Our daughters couldn't make it today, so he's representing all the kids. And Carla, what you said was apt. I think especially today, kids pay a high price for parents that are in politics. And I'm not sure if it's social media or what it is, but I think it's even a little more taxing, I think, perhaps, than it was. And so they were always very supportive and patient with my career. And Coulter, thanks for being here today. And then, of course, Tammy. None of this happens without you. She's giving me some cues now. I'm wondering what's going on. Missing something? So thanks to you all for coming. It is my first time back in the building since that late January night, 2018. But I'll tell you, I was, upon coming into the building this afternoon, greatly reassured by its sameness, by the continuity that this building represents. You walk in that amazing lobby, and it's the same. And up those stairs, the same. You see these amazing pillars in this rotunda, the same, like they've been here forever. The great wooden doors behind this curtain leading to the chamber, the same. Wayne Mantika and Murray Mandrick, the same. And then to Steve Batta, by the way. Steve, for those of you who don't know, is the manager and the guardian and the protector and the leader of this particular building that we're in, and he's got a great passion for it, and him and his team obviously did a lot of work and prep into setting this up. And so, Steve, thank you for that. I think he's lurking around somewhere back there as well. And obviously, let me thank Phil for his amazing talent and this amazing painting, notwithstanding the quality of the subject matter. I enjoyed the chance we had to get to know each other a little bit better, and I'm very, very grateful for your work in this painting, and congratulations on all your recent success and the very deserved credit that you've been receiving among Canadian portrait artists, indeed globally in terms of portrait artists. I was very proud to be able to work with you. Shortly after we were first elected in 2007, I was visited by people from Protocol, the Protocol office. And I should actually also thank Chelsea Vargo Wilson, who many of you met, because she's a senior protocol officer with the government of Saskatchewan, worked in our government, in my government as well, I guess, on itinerary. God bless her. I wasn't the easiest person to deal with when it came to trying to even schedule an itinerary coordinating meeting, but she persevered, and she has poured so much work into this and dealt with forgetful me and high maintenance me, and Chelsea, thank you very, very much. There you are. I appreciate that very much. So anyway, folks from Protocol come into the office, and they have this binder. And they put the binder on the desk, and they say, in this binder, you're going to see samples of portraiture and portrait artist options that you have, and we need you to pick one. And then we need to get that painting done as quickly as possible. And I think I said, probably a bit defensively, oh, we just got here. It's a little early to plan the funeral, I think. And they said something like, the protocol person said something like, well, Premier, we just want to capture the vitality and the energy of your new government in its first days of office. Ladies and gentlemen, that's protocol speak for, we need to get this thing painted now before you start to look like Skeletor. Turned out to be quite prescient, I think, those protocol people. So we took the binder home, and Tammy and I, we flipped through it. And it was, I think, almost at the same time that we chose a portrait that is of the former Premier of Ontario, Bob Rae. And we saw the name beside that portrait, and it was Phil's. And we made our choice. And soon after we did, he flew out to Regina And he even came to Swift Current, and he met with me, he met with us. He asked about my passions, my interests other than politics. He wanted to know a little bit more about those. He said if we agreed, he would like to paint into the background some artifacts of those passions, of those interests, the things that we loved. And then I knew we had made the right choice. So for example, if you look over, I guess, my left shoulder, you will see a model of a 1967 Dodge midlife crisis and a picture of Tammy. And I love them both. And when he came to Swift Current, he asked to go for a ride in the car and maybe take me to a place that I did some thinking, if there was such a place, although he worded it nicer than that. And I said, sure. So we jumped in the Coronet and we drove to Marsden Road, which is in the south perimeter of Swift Current, and maybe only about an hour and a half from where my grandma and grandpa Schmidt were basically sharecroppers for most of their adult lives. And anyway, I would go there and I would run with Zeke, our dog. Well, I would briskly walk with Zeke, our dog, but I did go there to think. It was a regular place to go. From that road, by the way, you turn and look to the north and you see a view of my hometown, a view of my constituency, that place that I kind of wanted to represent somewhere, Ottawa, Regina. And Phil took a picture of that view. And that view is in the painting too, over my other shoulder. It's a painting that does not exist except in this painting, which I think is kind of cool. Other details include my glasses. You can just barely see them on the table because it was back then when I didn't have to wear them all the time. It was also back when they didn't have to send out to the Hubble Space Telescope people for the prescriptions, it seems. In my hand, at my request, I'm holding a paper that I prepared in opposition. It's called The Promise of Saskatchewan, and it is the forebear and the foundation for our growth plans, on which we campaigned and with which we governed. So I thank you, Phil, for that. I thank you for your interest in those details. I'm not sure people will see them all, but it's an interesting little game to play to try to pick all of those out, and I appreciate your care and attention to them. You know, ladies and gentlemen, some paintings get names. Named for their subject. Named for the artist, maybe. Named for the critic, perhaps. This painting has no name. But were it to have a name, I would suggest that it be called Not Likely. There have only been 15 premiers in our history. That the seemingly impossible dreams I harbored of an honor like this one day would come true. Not likely. Consider the family history of the subject in the painting. 62 years and 5 days ago, his mom and dad were married. The Southside Church of God in Swift Current by the Reverend Robert J. Reeser, originally from Console, Saskatchewan. John was 18. Alice was just 16. And my brother would come along 5 months later. The board of the Southside Church of God wasn't real keen about Pastor Bob marrying Mom and Dad, but he did it anyway. What do the statistics say about the likelihood of a couple starting out in those circumstances, like making it for any length of time? What might even have John and Alice's neighbors, or friends, family members even thought about their chances of making it for any length of time, never mind long enough to have another son? Not likely. But thank God statistics are no match for faith, hope, and love. So the man in the painting is smiling. Is it confidence that the smile evinces? Maybe even overconfidence? Not likely. There was lots of self-doubt, sleep-depriving self-doubt. And you know what? That too was a blessing. For in the world of politics, it's still my belief that a little self-doubt will send you back to the bosses more regularly, send you back to the people that sent you there in the first place. A little self-doubt hopefully will make you a bit more thoughtful, maybe a bit more deliberate, maybe a bit less ideological. A little self-doubt and the humility that it usually hangs around with will make it easier to share credit and admit mistakes and make a change. There's only one subject in the painting. It might suggest to the viewer that whatever good was accomplished in these years, they must have been the product of a singular effort. Not likely. You see, it was Donna Harpower as social services minister and later June Drowdy as social services minister that helped this province end a wait list for Saskatchewan citizens with intellectual disabilities that needed the dignity, wanted the dignity of a home. It was them, not the guy in the painting. I drank from wells. I did not dig. It was Rod Ganifor and his team at Finance that brought forward, I probably now forgotten, but a really important tax reform package to reduce taxes for middle-class families, but more importantly, drop 110,000 low-income people from the tax rolls entirely, not the guy in the painting. It was Don McMorris and his team that led the surgical wait list initiative that took us from the longest to among the shortest wait times. I've harvested vineyards that I did not plant. It was Jim Ryder as a private member, the leadership of Bob Benrod and the deputy premier, and working with SARM and rural groups especially, even though it was an urban issue as well, to finally and properly deliver property tax relief, education property tax relief to the province of Saskatchewan. But I was the guy that got to announce it at SARM, to a big ovation. It was individual members on both sides of the House over those years that brought forward constituent concerns, that presented needs like new schools that they would have in their constituency. And they were deliberate and determined to get that done. And they worked through the system. And guess who probably was at the ribbon cutting and whose name might be on the plaque? That guy's. Maybe not theirs. I've warmed by fires I did not kindle. That's why I'm feeling very, very grateful. Very, very grateful today. I should wrap things up before I'm accused of filibustering my own hanging. But it's the last time I'm going to speak in this building. So, as Lincoln would say, I am loath to close. Some have asked me since the invitations for today went out, what do I want people to take away when they see the painting, Phil? People ask me, how would you like your government to be remembered as well? I hope people recall leadership in this province that held an unequivocal, unshakable faith in her possibilities and in her promise, and then acted on those notions. I hope they recall leadership that helped change the trajectory of this province, that helped lead to a permanent improvement in our collective attitude. Do you remember the near myopia we had when it came to political and economic discourse? We seemed to be afflicted by this focus on 1 million people. That was the measure, that was the number people talked about. A whole psychology on Saskatchewan politics sort of formed around 1 million people. There were debates around that number. Could we get above it? Could we stay above it? Sometimes the doubting side, mostly the doubting side, was proved to be correct because the quarterly stats can reports would come out and, the news wasn't good for the side that thought it was something achievable in a permanent way. Our focus on that 1 million population number that young people probably, thankfully, don't recall, it seemed to embed itself into the psyche of the province. It became a measure for the effectiveness of government, actually, of all stripes. It became a source of our collective self-assurance, or too often a confirmation of our self-doubt, depending where we are against that number. So not to be too political today, and I apologize in advance if this is, but I want to say that we were very intentional about population growth, about growth in general. We did seek to offer an attitudinal change for the province, to join actually with Saskatchewan people as they were lifting their gaze from where the next step would take them to some point on the horizon. And so there was the graduate retention plan, and there was some very significant strengthening of immigration initiatives. There were all the elements of the growth plan, and these things taken together with the blessings of Providence, let's be honest, ended this debate or this focus. And here's a risky word in politics, but I use it advisedly, forever. Ours is an economy, folks, in a province that will always cycle because of how we make our living. But we've seen now that even through down cycles, the growth has continued. 1.17 million people when I walked out those doors 5 years ago, and I don't remember the exact number the Premier quoted, but it sounded a lot like 1.2 million people today. 1.2 million people. Not too long ago, economics professors, people in leadership would say, that could never happen. I hope that people recall leadership in our time that said, yes, it can. So will we ever have this myopia? Will we ever have this focus, this debate again about 1 million people? Will we ever have the old collective doubt that Saskatchewan cannot grow or lead? Not likely. Thank you.